Welcome to our recap series. These videos are planned to cover chunks of 6 or more episodes each to get anyone who wants to catch up quickly ready to keep watching the ever-expanding story of our heroes, the members of the highest standard. The world this campaign takes place in is called Somnis Domina. The world is guided by 12 gods, the Eidolons, which are split into 3 groups, each with a greater sway on different continents. For now, we focus on the Retian country of Mott, and more specifically on its capital city, the merchant-run aristocratic trade city of Summergrass. Our party gathers from different walks of life to form a guild so they can pursue their personal goals. The members are Vogan, a hobgoblin sword saint, a formerly ruthless captain from the distant warring continent, the Strikelands. Left to die by his allies, he's trying to follow the guidance of the mentor who saved him. His goal is to earn the privilege of going on a pilgrimage between the temples of the Retian Eidolons. Raleigh Vermilion, who goes by the alias Aristo, a Dompier warlock who serves a deific sea serpent named Morganite. Formerly a member of a criminal organization called The Family, his body was possessed for 2 years, and he is seeking knowledge about what he did during that time. Quintus Valorbilt, a young human knight from a northern country called the Land Away. He is seeking to retrieve an artifact that was stolen from his family, so that he might take his late father's place on the Lions Council, his country's ruling government. Miriam Lucius, a tiefling bard from the desert country of Greyrock, who met Quintus and became his best friend and aide. His only goal is to aid Quintus in his travels, feeling partially responsible for the death of Quintus's father. Fenris Salbaran, a Shadarkai cleric of the Eidolon Tequin, whose parents left at a young age and endured the generational distrust Retians have of elves. Eventually joining the Church of Tequin, she found her place and has been assigned to find a cure for amnesis, a memory-stealing disease. Lexi Hendricks, a Kitsadrian rogue disguised as a human, who along with her siblings was stolen from her family in the distant continent of Cahulas and raised by the family to be an infiltrator. After escaping, she became Fenris's best friend and is joining her as Lexi searches for her own lost siblings. After meeting and exchanging what information they are willing to share, the group heads to the Dragging Dagger, the national company that tracks and manages guilds, and registers as the highest standard. Shortly after, they're instructed to meet with their first employers, Kyverium Southrester, a gnome scientist and doctor, and the half-elf Edrigan Bermont, one of the city's 7 merchant lords. They travel to a military outpost, Fort Deepwell, where they meet Kyverium, Edrigan, and Edrigan's assistant, Diane Kansliger. It is explained that Kyverium is trying to cure amnesis, but attacks on Edrigan's caravans have made corresponding with a distant associate of his impossible. Edrigan and Kyverium both want to put an end to these robberies, which are being carried out by a criminal known as the Bandit Lord of Mott, who purportedly stole Quintus's family heirloom. The party arranges a reverse ambush. When the attack comes, the highest standard deals with the rank-and-file bandits readily. But then, the Kitsadrian witch Scandal Sigrin appears alongside the Bandit Lord, the Obsidian Dragonborn, Murkwire. The battle quickly turns in the favor of the Bandit Lord, who wields a greatsword made of mesite, a crystal that causes amnesis. The party is plowed through by this Dragonborn gladiator, who leaves them unconscious and defeated. A week passes, which the group loses all memory of due to the influence of Murkwire's mesite sword. They awaken at the bottom of a corpse pit, having been discarded into a gnoll stronghold. Quintus's key to his stolen heirlooms container has been taken, along with their valuables, but most importantly Winchester, his late mother's faithful warhorse, is missing. However, they are not dead. Lexi is left with a note signed with a paw print, and a female voice yells from a skylight above to escape and meet up with them. The highest standard fights their way out, defeating the seemingly invincible gnoll Gnick Snorkus, freeing an abused tiger named Jerky in the process. They make their way outside and are confronted by a gnoll captain, but are aided by the voice from before, the gun-slinging bard Lyra Costilla Chandonnay. As they regroup, Lyra explains that she was once held captive by Murkwire and wants a precious violin returned to her, so forms an alliance with the group. With the cautious Tiger Jerky following them, they return to Fort Deepwell, only to find that Kyverium had received a letter from the highest standard themselves and left. Having sent no such letter, the party deals with a sudden outbreak of amniosis among the Deepwell soldiers, cures Jerky of an amniotic infection he contracts, and heads back to Summergrass. They meet with Edragan, but must be escorted to his business in the Platinum District, where commoners are not allowed to wander unattended. Meeting with them, they find that Aristo had been the one to give them the letter to deliver, and that he had seemed more chipper than usual. This casts suspicion on Aristo, but the group concludes that they should trust him. Edragan and Diane tell them that the letter pointed Kyverium to the distant town of Ridgemont, and the party sets off to find him, beginning a 2-week trip across the country. The party stops in a town halfway there, where they spend the night, but find it has been overtaken by a horrific undead tree, the Tree of Loathsome Nightmares, which turned the town into a hive of ghouls under illusory protection. As they're attacked by the town, they break a Trollkin paladin, Effluus Atanta, out of jail. He reveals himself to be part of the Academy, which is responsible for sealing dangerous magic and spellcasters. With his aid, they defeat the tree, and are surprised when an aspect of Amir the Wise Forest, one of the Eidolons, appears to thank them for doing so. They are given crystal ametrine apples from Amir, which are divine fruit that can cure any disease, which the party and Effluus take. Miriam uses one of the party's 4 apples to cure the town's sole survivor, an old man with amniosis, and they agree to escort him to his relatives in Ridgemont. When they arrive at the mountainside town, they find a man collapsed, who turns out to be the relative they're looking for. He says he had been up to the mountaintop to visit the shrine of a wish-granting spirit called the Silver Esper, hoping to barter for the life of his sick daughter. He speaks of the Esper as requiring equivalent exchange for their services. This man traded the prospective life of his unborn child for the survival of his daughter. Unhappy with this, Quintus insists they seek the Esper after Kyverium is found. That settled, the party tracks Kyverium to an inn, where they find out he entered his room but never left. Finding no sign of him, the group investigates and finds flipper-like tracks leading to a wall, and after a great deal of ruckus and crowbar wrenching, they find a secret passage leading below the mountain. The highest standard investigates, and are ambushed by Scandal Seagrin, who playfully toys with them, questioning their goals and motives. She admits to luring Kyverium there as Aristo, and says she'll answer their questions if they can catch her. She summons various glass golems while she begins activating a teleportation circle on the ground, one of the many her adoptive mother, a hag, has set up around the country. During the battle, Aristo is knocked unconscious, and Miriam is cursed by the witch. She also attempts to magically command Miriam, endowing him with the command to destroy the Sephrite below Summergrass, for her amusement. But this command fails, and she does not elaborate on its meaning. The highest standard manages to eventually lasso her and pull her down with rope, and she agrees to answer their questions. Scandal tells them that Kyverium was taken by a Sahuagin tribe her mother had connections to, and that she didn't actually care about Murkwire's goals. He had simply killed her mother to claim her territory, and Scandal enjoyed pretending to serve him to see what he would do. She insinuates that Murkwire is planning to seize control of the country, and that he is currently far more interesting than the highest standard. She speaks as if she knows more about Lexi's past than she should, and when asked if they're related, Scandal clarifies that she woke up on a beach with no clear memory, where her adoptive mother found her, so she didn't know. Despite this, the witch strongly hints that she knows more than she's letting on, cryptically insinuating that Murkwire is after something below Summergrass. She vanishes. Before proceeding, the highest standard heads back up to the surface to treat Aristo, and while doing so, they find a mark on his skin that Vogan recognizes as the seal of a conquering sorceress from the Strikelands, Satsumaru, the Crystal Queen. Searching his things, They find items that implicate Aristo in a variety of events. An emblem and peridot fragments tying him to an attack on Fenris's temple. A worker ID badge connecting him to a mine collapse that Miriam's father died in. And an inert Messite dagger. Wanting to know how he was connected to various tragedies in their lives, the group awaits for Aristo to awaken.